On the first morning, Varner had put the horse into a fast trot to get it over with quick. But almost at once he began to feel the entire body behind him, which, even motionless in a chair, seemed to postulate an invincible abhorrence of straight lines, jiggling its components, boneless curves against his back. He had a vision of himself transporting not only across the village's horizon, but across the embracing proscenium of the entire inhabited world, like the sun itself. A kaleidoscope convolution of mammalian ellipses. So he would walk the horse. He would have to. His sister clutching the cross of his suspenders or the back of his coat with one hand and looking and holding the book satchel with the other, passing the store where the usual quota of men would be sitting and squatting, past Mrs. Littlejohn's veranda where there would usually be an itinerant drummer or horse trader, and Varner, now believing, convinced that he knew why they were there too. The real reason why they had driven 20 miles from Jefferson. And so up to the school where the other children in overalls and coarse calico and cast-off adult shoes as often as not, when they wore shoes at all, were already gathered after walking 3 and 4 and 5 times the distance. She would slide off the horse, and her brother would sit for a moment longer, seething, watching the back, which already used its hips to walk with as women use them, and speculate with raging impotence whether to call the schoolteacher, he was a man, outside at once, and have it out with him, warn or threaten or even use his fists, or whether to wait until that happened which he, Varner, was convinced must occur. They would repeat that at 1 o'clock and in the reverse direction at 12 and 3. Varner riding on 100 yards up the road to where, hidden by a copse, a fallen tree lay. The manservant had felled it one night while he sat the horse and the lantern. He would ride up beside it, snarling fiercely to her the third time she mounted it from it. God damn it, can't you try to get on it without making it look like the horse is 20 feet tall? He even decided one day that she should not ride astride anymore. This lasted one day until he happened to look aside, and so behind him, and saw the incredible length of outrageously curved dangling leg and the bare section of thigh between dress and stocking top, looking as gigantically and profoundly naked as the dome of an observatory. And his rage was only intensified by the knowledge that she had not deliberately exposed it. He knew that she simply did not care, doubtless did not even know it was exposed, and if she had known, would not have gone to the trouble to cover it. He knew that she was sitting, even on the moving horse, exactly as she would in a chair at home, and as he knew inside the schoolhouse itself. So that he wondered at times, in his raging helplessness, how buttocks as consistently subject to the impact of that much steadily increasing weight could, in the mere act of walking, seem actually to shout aloud that rich-minded and will-sapping fluid softness, sitting even on the moving horse, secret and not even sullen, bemused with whatever it was, which had nothing to do with flesh meat at all, emanating that outrageous quality of being, existing, actually on the outside of the garments she wore, and not only being unable to help it, but not even caring. She attended the school from her 8th year until shortly after Christmas in her 14th. She would undoubtedly have completed that year, and very probably the next one or two, learning nothing, except that in January of that year, the school closed. It closed because the teacher vanished. He disappeared overnight with no word to anyone. Oh, I bet I know what happened. He neither collected his term salary nor removed his meager and moonlight personal effects from the fireless, rented, lean-to room in which he had lived for 6 years. His name was Labov. He came from the adjoining county, where Will Varner himself had discovered him by sheer chance. The incumbent, the professor at that time, was an old man, bibulous by nature, who had been driven still further into his cups by the insubordination of his pupils. The girls had respect neither for his ideas and information nor for his ability to convey them. The boys had no respect for his capacity not to teach them, but to make them obey and behave, or even be civil to him. A condition which had long since passed the stage of mere mutiny and had become a kind of bucolic Roman holiday, like the baiting of a mangy and toothless bear. Thus everyone, including the professor, knew that he would not be there next term. But nobody minded, especially whether the school functioned next year or not. They owned it. They had built the schoolhouse themselves and paid the teacher and sent their children to it only when there was no work for them to do at home. So it only ran between harvest time and planting, from mid-October through March. Nothing had been done yet about replacing the professor until one day in the summer, Varner happened to make a business trip into the next county, was benighted, and was invited to pass the night in a bleak, puncheon-floored cabin on a barren little hill farm. When he entered the house, he saw, sitting beside the cold hearth and sucking a foul little clay pipe, an incredibly old woman wearing a pair of stout-looking man's shorts, slightly unorthodox, or even a little bizarre in appearance. But Varner paid no attention to them until he heard a clattering, scraping noise behind him and turned and saw a girl of about 10 in a tattered, though quite clean, gingham dress and a pair of shoes, exactly like those of the old lady, if anything, even a little larger. Before he departed the next morning, Varner had seen 3 more pairs of the same shoes, by which time he had discovered that they resembled no other shoes he had ever seen or even heard of. His host told them what they were. "What?" Varner said. "Football shoes?" "It's a game," Labov said. "They play it at the university." he explained. It was the eldest son. He was not at home now, off working at a sawmill to earn money to return to the university, where he had been for one summer normal term and then half of the following academic term. It was then that the university played the game out of which the shoes had come. The son had wanted to learn to be a school teacher, or so he said when he left for the university the first time. That is, he wanted to go to the university. The father saw no point in it. The farm was clear and would belong to the son someday, and it had always made them a living. But the son insisted. He could work at mills and such and save enough to attend the summer terms and learn to teach anyway, since this was all they taught in the summer sessions. He would even be back home in the late summer in time to help finish the crop. So he earned the money, doing harder work than farming, too, the elder Labov said. But he was almost 21. I couldn't have stood in his way even if I would have, and enrolled her for the summer session, which would last 8 weeks, and so would have had him back home in August. But he did not do so. When September arrived, he still had not returned. They did not know for certain where he was, though they were not worried so much as annoyed, concerned, even a little outraged that he should have deserted them with the remaining work on the crop, the picking and ginning of the cotton, the gathering and cribbing of the corn to be done. In mid-September, the letter came. He was going to stay on longer at the university through the fall. He had a job there. They must gather the crops without him. He did not say what kind of job it was, and the father took it for granted as being another sawmill, since he could never have associated any sort of revenue-producing occupation with going to school. And they did not hear from him again until October, when the first package arrived. It contained 2 pairs of the curious cleated shoes.